Next Door Neighbors is made possible by the support of the Nissan Foundation.
This is the blended, and this is the one with the chili oil and peppers. So, and that's
probably the most satisfying part of doing this job is the different kind of people that you meet, different kind of customers.
Thanks, man. All right, appreciate it. Just give a couple minutes. Okay.
Stop at InterAsian Market and Deli on Nolensville Pike in South Nashville, and chances are you'll run into Samboon Woo. He and his parents operate this neighborhood mainstay, which has been in business since 1994.
Well, I think, when we first started, most of our customers were probably 99% just Asians. But as Nashville has grown, and a lot of people who are moving from other states were looking for this kind of food. And then even people who weren't looking for this kind of food said, hey, let's go there and check it out.
One of InterAsian Market's chief attractions is the deli.
2 double meat banh mi, please.
If you have one reason to stop by InterAsian Market, it's going to definitely be my mom's cooking, my mom's food.
Samboon's mom, Boon Kang, and his dad, Kyosavan, operated a restaurant back in Laos. As refugees of the Vietnam War, they had to leave that all behind, but they remained entrepreneurs at heart.
When they came here, they always had a vision, a dream that they wanted to open up another business, but they had to work really hard, save. And my mom, I have to say, she's probably the one that's sort of the backbone of the family. She's the one that came up with the idea. She's the one that pushed it.
While Samboon and Kyosavan are the face of the store, Boon Kang provides the flavor. And the sandwich she's best known for is the banh mi. While they offer 5 different varieties, the original is a good place to start. It's a Vietnamese sandwich with French bread, pickled vegetables, creamy pate, sliced pork, and spicy jalapenos. Whether you're already a fan of global cuisine or just curious to try something new, visiting one of Nashville's many international markets is a great way to explore the flavors of the world and perhaps meet somebody new in the process.
Thanks.
InterAsian Market is just for anybody. If you walk in here, we're going to help you find what you want. We're going to help you explore, the Asian cuisine.
Next Door Neighbors is made possible by the support of the Nissan Foundation.